Well, then I'll call the meeting to order at 10:02. Can we have a roll call, Ms. Jones?
Yes, sir. Here. All right. Secretary Halverson.
Here.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Harrigan.
Here.
Thank you. Member Holmes.
Here.
Thank you. Chairman Lewis.
Here.
Thank you. Member Martell.
Present.
Thank you. Member Siegel.
Yes,
I'm here.
Thank you. And Member Sutherland, I believe is absent. Absent at the moment. We'll see if he chimes in, but at least we have a quorum.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all for making this midweek meeting. I appreciate it. It's very important. It'll be a great check-in with our partners in Riverside. So are there any changes or modifications necessary to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Make a motion.
So moved.
Holmes, Martell, thank you. First and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. The agenda is approved. This is the time and place for members of the public at any location to comment on items on the agenda, as this is a special meeting. Are there any members of the public that would wish to comment on the agenda at any of our locations or in this chat? Ms. Jones, are there any members of the public that wish to speak?
We haven't received anything submitted via the email or in chat. So.
Okay, seeing that there are no members of the public, then we will move to our featured presentation, our dear partner, Dr. Loomis from the Riverside County Office of Education. Dr. Loomis, welcome. We always appreciate seeing you and learning from you. Welcome.
And Dr. Loomis, would you like me to bring up the presentation slide? Or if you have a revised version, I think you have sharing permissions.
And unmute.
All right, so I've got, okay, this is working here. All right, I apologize. Google's been a little glitchy with me, but it looks like my live video is good. I did do a call-in, so I think I'll log off the call-in. So I apologize about the delay here.
No problem.
You better call back in. While we're waiting, I'm glad to prove to Tom Halverson and my colleagues that I actually do work out of City Hall. This is my office, in case anybody wants to take a shot. I do really work at City Hall and go to work.
It's not a virtual wallpaper?
No. Come on, Tom, go ahead. I gave you an opportunity.
He goes to the City Hall. That doesn't mean he works.
Oh.
Hey guys, while we're waiting for Dr. Loomis.
Okay, let's try this again.
Oh, here it is.
Okay.
This is so crazy. So, all right, calling in, but it's going through the video, but I'm not gonna. All right, we can talk about that next week at the conference. Okay,
Yes.
so I think I'm good to go. We're good? I apologize. All right, so here we are. Yeah, so grateful to have an opportunity to come and share with the board and come and visit again. And yes, Mr. Lewis, we are definitely partners in the work, and I appreciate the work that you do as board members and Janae and team. Outstanding work. So I'm excited. Actually, I'm at a neighboring school. I'm doing a double header with the board here at Excelsior at the top of the hour. So I'm actually in a classroom. So it's kind of good to be back at the site. I might have to swing over and say hi to your team over there after we get done here. And so I'm just going to jump into it, but just a couple good reminders and just continuing to build off of our relationship and come with encouragement and maybe a couple reminders to think through, have a new resource that I wanted to point you to, but always comes back with our overlapping why of why we're here together now, which is for students, right? Of course it is. And the longer I do the work, the more I realize that the importance of the board and your important expertise, your gift of time for the most important treasure and resource that we have, which is the next generation. And I'm also educator first. So I know I have colleagues that think of the work differently, but I didn't sign up to work to be a compliance officer. I signed up as an educator at heart. So that is just kind of central around our collective why. And just a reminder of what we're about. We're really heavy on relationships, being student focused, being transparent is very important and excellent. I'm always pushing the boundaries on next level best practices. And you could go to the next slide. I think I have a visual of this. Yeah, and this is our overlapping framework around continuous improvement. We have two kind of main levers that we work on leadership. One is the governing board. And with me working with you, and again, I'm making rounds to all 13 schools, and so we're they're same message and same encouragement and sharing with all of our boards. And the other piece, besides working with the boards and the governance, is also on the instructional side. So we're just trying to think of areas that we could have the most positive influence and impact. So this is what I would like to call beyond compliance. We still, of course, have that statutory requirement, but that's not the main emphasis of our work. The main emphasis of our work is to support, and really, I believe together, us working collectively, we could have an excellent, effective, high-performing portfolio. And I would love it for other authorizers and other counties up and down the state to say, why is this different? And the difference is because we're co-collaborators in the work, and that we have a good, strong, trusting partnership and relationship. Yeah, and those are the two levers kind of where we spend our emphasis on influencing and supporting. And I made reference to this, and this is just a visual of what I call beyond compliance. So the next slide, it gets way more detail. I'm not going to spend any time of it, but this is just a visualization around our goals and what this actually looks like for us on our end. The next slide, Liz. Right, so I won't get into the detail, but as I stress that we do have that statutory requirement, you only see kind of one column or one pillar on the left with that compliance. But you can see all the other pillars and areas and columns of where we really spend a lot of time and resource. Again, just wanted to support the board and the school in providing the best programs that we can for students. So we have different emphases on in these different areas in the instructional piece and on the governance piece. They're red are new areas for us. We do with our equity lens, we tend to lean into the EL work and the SED work. Thank you for blowing that up a little bit more.
Thank you.
We in the governance piece we have there. One reach piece that we haven't quite gotten to is to provide more support around social emotional learning. That's a big emphasis. And physical health, of course, that's always there. And we have had a transition with our fiscal oversight. And I know leadership knows, but we had our partner, Bethany Figueroa. She actually took the director position for the Tennessee Charter School Commission. So she's second in charge at the state level in Tennessee. That's super exciting to see. But we lost a valuable resource where we were able to lean in a little bit more with some additional support and training. And so we're coming back around on that and reorganizing around what would it look like to better support charters in the area of training and professional development in the fiscal area. And then down below are how we accomplish those goals, kind of the pathways and the conduits to help us with that one piece that we'll lift next year. This was our ambitious plan for this year. Would be data chats, just having collaborative conversations around LCAP and data, and again, just being a thought partner in the work. Thank you, Liz. Next. Yeah, in the handbook, this was our pandemic project. So we developed a comprehensive handbook that's on our webpage. It explains the why and how and what we do, and it goes back to our core value of being transparent. So we never want there to be any surprises or any confusion of what the expectation is. It really lays out our philosophical approach to the work as well. It is a unique handbook, so it's published on our webpage for the world and charter leaders to read and evaluate. And anybody that's interested in submitting a petition to the county office or a county could go to that resource and have a better understanding of how we do what we do. A quick recap on this. I won't spend too much time on this piece here. This is what we covered last year, and we were able to put that book in everybody's hands. So all board members, and Liz, you can let me know if we need any extras. We actually have several extras if we need any extras for your board. But essentially, we thought that was a great resource. It was a higher level book, really geared towards smaller nonprofits and effective strategies as board members and areas to be aware of. And so I'm just going to kind of blow through these a little quicker, these next couple slides, because again, this is just a reminder section on that tool. And I will say, because it's on the bottom of that previous slide, but there is, just a reminder, there is a good evaluation on page 58 and 59 that goes through that. So the board wanted to say, hey, do we have any gaps or any areas that maybe we could use some professional development on? You could go to that page and collectively ask those questions to see if there's anything that the board may want to consider for professional development. Again, as we're transitioning this slide here, just a key reminders of responsibility, and you all know these pieces here. Of course, bylaws and those, it's always a good reminder to evaluate and look through those on an annual basis. School management, essentially school leadership, and effective processes in place to evaluate school management. But essentially, these are the areas that the board's responsible, that heavy lift. That's why you have the broad, big shoulders, heavy shoulders that carry this lift. Fiscal controls, fiscal health, academic performance, risk management. Risk management was just thinking through areas that the board and school might have exposure to, and just evaluating that. And it could be physical, risk as far as, building and kind of that nature, but also, when it comes to student behavior and those type of things. But I won't spend too much time on it because you guys are doing a great job. Facilities, board meetings, a big, broad, lot of areas for the board to be responsible for. And there's no secret sauce to the characteristics of a successful school, a successful organization, but school-wide culture focused on student success, having effective, experienced leadership. And the big challenge that all schools are having now, right? Attracting and retaining the most capable staff. I've seen some unique things happening with schools, and even a one in our portfolio, but trying to really build their own teacher program and developing partnerships with universities to bring maybe some of that work in-house and providing opportunities to classified. So Jane, I know there was that bill and those monies that dried up. I think probably 4 years ago, there was that attempt to kind of encourage to fill the pipeline with potential classified. So we do have one school in our portfolio that's actually doing that on their own and partnered with a local university down here. And develop a professional development plan, and that's what we shared up above. Just thinking through where can we continue to grow as a board. All right, so I'm excited to share some new resources and tools. And Liz, I will give this to you because I found out there's more to this particular research. So let me set this up, and there's going to be a tool that's going to be closer to your work that I don't have on my slide deck yet because I just discovered, but let me kind of set this up and explain this. The National Charter School Resource Center has conducted extensive research the last couple of years that really dives into the question what are the most common reasons charter schools fail and close? So it's been really almost a 3-year project. The first year is outlined in this particular resource that you see on your screen, but essentially it goes into the research of the hundreds of schools that they evaluated and had follow-up interviews and did a lot of survey work around what are the key indicators. So they're calling them actually distress indicators. So if there's signs of distress in these particular areas, it's definitely something that the board and the school should pay attention to. So I don't want you to get too hung up. I know in that title it has authorizers, and the tool that I just discovered is actually for charter schools and boards, charter boards. So I just wanted to set it up. This is kind of the first if you're into this type of you kind of geek out on a research but it outlines really all those areas in a good amount of detail, identifying what those distress indicators are.
Dr. Loomis, I'm curious, are you going to go into those? Okay. Oh, thank you. I was
Yeah,
curious.
just a little bit. I'll highlight a couple, and this is just going to be at a higher level. And so these are kind of the big bucket areas. And the little X just means I'm going to just take one more slide level deeper on those particular areas. But we have leadership, and again, healthy, strong board, healthy, strong leadership. So I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but these are always good reminders for all of us in leadership. But areas under leadership, they have those subcategories, governing board, and they go into all these areas that you see on your screen. Talent, as we touched on, the challenges around that, and that's looped in that other resource, that other book. School culture, instruction. These were the main buckets of what they discovered with their research. And again, we'll just take one level deeper on the X's in the next couple slides here. And this is just to give you a flavor and a feel of this research. Leadership indicators. So essentially, if there's distress in there, it's usually because of these reasons. And actually, I didn't list all of them. These are just a sample of what a few of those. Mismatched leadership competencies to context. So I've seen an experience, and we've heard of those stories, but essentially where a school or a network might outgrow their leadership or their leadership's capacity. So that might be kind of an example of a mismatch of competency. So oftentimes, as I was in the charter world too, there's that phrase, founder's disease, right? Sometimes when folks are in that situation, they quite don't know when to hand over the reins, which could complicate matters. But inability to sustain leadership. I'm sorry.
I've been vaccinated against founder's disease. Just wanted to make that clear.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, I'm just going to crank up my phone just a little bit. That was perfect. Okay, inability to sustain leadership, and that's a challenge too, right? We've got some networks and schools, and of course, it's not just limited to charter schools. All LEAs sustain leadership. Lack of systemic leadership development, right? Are we kind of growing and promoting within, and what does that professional development and training look for? That next level, that next rung that we want to grow. Lack of leadership altogether. Those are just kind of samples of the indicators under leadership. Governing board indicators. So these are some of the factors, again, under distress, things that cause charter schools to fail. Inability to convene board or board meetings. Deteriorating relationship with authorizers. Governing boards' inability to hold school leaders accountable. As I do this work, and across the country, some of my colleagues, I do a little extra support outside of RCOE. I'm working on a situation that this is a particular case right here, and it goes back to the board leadership not holding the CEO accountable, and the school getting to a point where they're under major distress. But it all goes back to not making earlier decisions with the key leadership and holding them accountable sooner before it gets to crisis mode. Inadequate governing board capacity to govern. So that kind of ties back into that idea of professional development, and when there's recruitment with the board, filling in those gaps where there might be a lack of expertise or knowledge. And as we all know, and I shared this last year, the #1 reason for charter school failure falls under the area of finances. Failure to properly manage misappropriated funds. So we don't have too much on the latter part, but yeah, managing the finances is critical. Having those systems in place and those controls in place are imperative. But that's the #1 reason for school failure. It falls under that financial bucket. All right, so that research followed up with 2 other documents. So I'm going to just give you a taste of this, but I'm actually going to point you to one that is more relevant. So yeah, for those that have time and want to dive into a very robust measurement tool, this would be the one. There's another one that, again, is directed towards boards and charter leaders that is not as robust. But I will follow up, and I just will go through a couple of these slides on this particular document. And then once we jump off of this presentation, what I'll do is I'll throw the link into the charter board one. I'll throw it in the chat, so at least you could grab that now. Okay, so we saw the research and they highlighted the key areas, and so they did fantastic work. So if you're not familiar with the National Charter School Resource Center, it's an arm and extension of the Department of Education. And so they produce fantastic work, a lot of great work for charter schools, and a lot of great resources. When I look for resources and tools when I'm working with charter leaders or boards, or even authorizers, smaller authorizers that you just wear so many hats, don't have the capacity or the staffing, I always look for what I call plug and play tools. And this would definitely fall into that idea of plug and play, easy to use, easy to implement. You don't need a PhD to figure things out. You can just actually grab it off the shelf and use it. So I won't spend, this is just a kind of at a glance. This is what would get into, follow it up with those distress indicators. And then what I have encouraged before I come across this other more charter specific resource is that schools, boards could take a deep dive if there was any particular area that they wanted to follow up on, and go through those different areas. So it would be like a mini self-evaluation, and taking a look internally with this particular tool. The one that I'll share with you is much shorter and condensed, but this would be the broader, bigger version under those indicators that we've discussed above. So this would be the board, and going through and see if there's any challenges or any areas that the board should be aware of, any areas of distress, any areas of concern. This is a good one for finances. If one wanted to look at that piece, again, really good resources. And so these are the key pieces that I actually wanted the new information that I wanted to share with the board this year as I'm coming around and visiting. You could go to the next slide. All right, so that's the information with the new content. I'm always trying to bring kind of new ideas and research to the board as I'm making a rounds. And this is, as we're kind of bringing this down to a landing, this is just as a reminder of the awesome responsibility that you have, and I know that you don't take lightly, and I appreciate everything that you do for your students, but you are responsible for all of it, and that's not an easy task or challenge to carry. Next slide. All right, as we're wrapping up the last couple of slides here, just a couple of announcements on our end. We do have a new Chief Academic Officer. So back when Pivot started with us, we had Dr. Cynthia Glover Woods. As a side note, she's now the Vice President of the SBE. So she's retired. She retired in June and keeps doing that great work at the state board education level. And so we have Amanda Corridon. She's our new Chief Academic Officer. And then our oversight work has bounced around a little bit, but now it's landing back where actually you all started when I started too, back in fiscal services, with Eugene as our executive director. A lot of experience. He's great to work with. So we're all very much focused on what can we do to better support and make sure schools are healthy and strong. If you're at the conference, I'm actually, our new coordinator will be starting next week, and he'll be at the conference. So we're excited to introduce him and get him out to the sites and start building his relationships. That position is to replace Dr. Susie Smith, who retired back in the fall. So we'll be fully staffed, and we're looking forward for some of the rollbacks and those other pieces. And I know all of us are looking forward to getting back to a little bit more of a normalcy where we can build up our relationships. We've been, sensitive and we probably would, in a normal year, we've been out and saying hi a lot more often than we have this year, but we've been aware with all the challenges and pausing a little bit on some of our visits. So I think, all right, yeah, Q&A, and then we could finish on the leadership slide. I think it's the last one, and then I'll be wrapping up my time.
Okay, thank you.
Everything rises and falls on leadership. So I appreciate your leadership.
Thank you. And thank you for, I think you always bring something very insightful and very relevant and really make the most of our time. I really appreciate, of all of our authorizers, you're the one that engages with us, and we appreciate it. And I think that you always bring something very valuable. I found that fascinating. And perhaps you can offer that study to Ms. Gaskell so we can look at it. I would like to see it further. That was very interesting. Board members, do you have questions? Go ahead. Questions, board members? Mr. Halverson, go ahead. Dr. Halverson, pardon me.
I just want to say I reviewed some of the material yesterday, that you would take the time to do this, which I'm not aware of anybody else that does it, frankly, and that you point out we're in this together. And I think that's the important part about it, is this is every kid's special, and you're making a point of saying that. And that makes it all worthwhile, even more worthwhile. And we know that you're out there as a resource for us and not somebody who's enforcing the rules, and that's about it. So thank you for taking the time. I'm very impressed. Nice job. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the comments. I think we've all changed and evolved. The pandemic has changed a lot of us, and in it and through it, I've had a lot of soul searching on what is our role as authorizers. So it really came back to, if we are truly student focused, what does that mean? And that's where I'm landing now, and that's where we're really co-collaborators and educators first. All the rest will follow, but that's our primary role.
Indeed. Dr. Harrigan, please.
Well, I just wanted to thank Dr. Loomis for his excellent presentation. I also wanted to validate the work that we're doing as a charter agency. And respectfully, having done work with Good to Great, Corey, and having worked with Linda Hammond on building capacity in schools for leadership, and Robert Fullen in creating a culture of collaboration, as well as the California School Boards Association indicators for efficient and effective school districts. Historically, many of the identified distressors have also been areas that have been identified as key goal areas for districts. And so historically, I think if you look even at our own LCAP, if you look at historical LEA plans or school improvement plans, you'll find evidence of those pillar areas as areas in which we have established best practice goals, balancing the focus, of course, always our work on education and serving our students, but certainly having our operations, physical capacity, and human resource departments in alignment with the ability to support students to the best that they can. So I would encourage us, because I think it'll provide us clarity of practice as well as clarity of evidence, if we took the self-study, Corey, which you've suggested, and just use it as another lens by which to look through our own documents, our own best practices. And because I think we will see evidence where we proactively have set goals in areas that are also the areas identified in the study as areas of distress. So I think that there's a great overlap in agencies that are using these best practices. And that, of course, is the key, because these invitations, as you said earlier, Corey, to best practices are at our doors, at our thresholds on a daily basis. And it takes leadership such as your own and leadership such as ours here in Pivot to welcome them in, use them effectively, and facilitate leadership in the best interest of our students. So thank you.
Dr. Harrigan, well put. Really always appreciate you articulating so much of what we're trying to do here. That was really well put. And I think Dr. Loomis, one of the things that I'm proud of at our school is that you'll see the same faces year after year. We continue to invest in our key staff, and they are fulfilled and executing, and so they're still here. And having a board of 2 doctors who are retired superintendents and 2 city managers and a retired public executive that owns his own company, and we have an entrepreneur and an investment banker. It's an incredibly talented group. And I think that is largely why our school, first off, due to our staff and the team and the hard work they do, but the board provides a real backdrop of good leadership.
Yep, absolutely. And you're right. Even going through that process could just be a reaffirming, practice. And yeah, you do have a solid team with Jana, and just a quick shout out to Liz. She's amazing. She's always on it. She's one of our leaders in our portfolio, so we appreciate her.
Thank you.
She's always humble too, and so I appreciate that.
We make sure we compliment Liz profusely at every board meeting so she sticks around.
Till she gets beat red.
Other comments from board members before we move to our next item? Seeing none, Dr. Loomis, I would want to invite you. We invested nearly $1 million in your district. Our facility is incredible there now, and we are very proud of it. And so I would like to extend to you an invitation to see our site and work with our team. And if it was for enough notice, I would be happy to meet you there as well, to see you and some of your key members. I would make a trip down to do that. So.
Got you. Yeah, and we'll be, when we're making the rounds with our new teammate, we'll make sure we're going to schedule those out, and we'll do that. And I'll have to take a look at my calendar, but I think I'm less than 2 miles away from your site from here, so I'll have to say hi.
So, Ms. Gaskell, and that's looking to be calendared. Can you let me know?
Absolutely.
I'll see if I can work that out. Dr. Harrigan, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, Liz, go ahead.
I was just going to share that we residents of Riverside County would enjoy being included as well.
Absolutely.
It would be wonderful to have our Riverside County resident there. Yes, as our local board member. Thank you. Ms. Jones, did you have a comment?
No, it was me, Chairman Lewis. It was Gina.
Oh.
And I just wanted to thank Dr. Loomis for everything. He had a slide way at the beginning that said something to the extent of, we kind of wish that everybody, all authorizers, would follow a similar format of similar goals, similar values in authorization as Riverside County. And I just want to say amen to that. Really, Corey, and I know I said it briefly at the board meeting because I didn't want them to think I was just brown nosing, but truthfully, earnestly, all the best information we get is always from you all. It's always first and foremost. And it's it's Riverside County's trainings that we attend over all others. And, we're in a couple of other good counties, but it just pales in comparison to what you all present and how you support us. So thank you.
Yep, I appreciate that. And hopefully we'll continue to have a ripple effect. I'm trying to share that across the state. So we'll see if we get a little movement going on the authorizer end. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, then we'll conclude that item. Our next item is 4.1. This is the AB 361 Open Meetings and Teleconferences Emergency Determination. Ms. Jones, did you want to add anything to that? We've been doing this. I'll make a comment, though, that I will support this today. But I do think as the situation in the state continues to improve, I would like to have the goal of being in person for our June board meeting. I think that our agency has gone back to in-person meetings. Many agencies are going to in-person meetings. Of course, we have to see how things are going, but if we continue to move the direction we are, looking at the latest CDC regulations, much of California now is low risk. There are still some parts that are not. But if we continue to trend the way we do, I would hope that we can end this and be in person for our June board meeting. That would be my goal. I did want to make that comment as chair, but I will support this today. Other comments from board members before I ask for a motion to approve the continued AB 361 findings? Dr. Harry.
Chairman Lewis, this is
Pat, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I'm on the phone, so you can't see me. I just want to concur with your comments, and I think that if all things align the way they should, that we should begin to start meeting in person. I think all of us will benefit, and I think the staff will benefit from seeing us.
Thank you, Ms. Martell. I appreciate it. Dr. Harrigan?
Just, I agree, Jim, with you and Pat. It's just, I just wanted to reiterate my understanding that the approval of this under the current legislation allows us to hold the meeting using Zoom should we need to. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So providing ourselves with that safety net, I think is something that I would advocate for based on the historical changes that we've experienced with the virus over the last, 2.5 years now. So I'm just advocating that this is a safety net which we can have in place, which allows us, should we need to hold meetings in the way we are today, with our advocacy that we come together in person, if as we're allowed to do or as safety allows us to do.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other comments from board members? I mean, for example, Dr. Harrigan, in the city of Pismo Beach, our agency, we have a 361 designation, but the council did meet in person, seated in the chamber, because all of them felt well, were healthy, had not been exposed. And so we returned, but we do have this designation. Should someone fall ill or have exposure, we want to have this opportunity so the rest of the board is not in danger. And I think that's appropriate in this day and time.
That's the same advocacy that I hold.
Great. Okay, seeing no other comment, can I have a motion, please, to approve the findings from AB 361?
Move, Tom.
Thank you, Dr. Halverson.
Second,
Second,
Pat.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, unanimously passes. Thank you. Item 4.2, disposal of surplus property. Liz?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Lewis. This one is just a somewhat time-sensitive matter that Executive Director Gaskell asked me to sneak on this agenda so we could take care of it sooner rather than later, because we are having some issues with capacity in our storage units with furniture and things like that. So the North Bay site has come up with a list of furniture and equipment that is in the opinion of site leadership beyond its useful life and of no future use to pivot. And so the proposed action is they're requesting that the board declare the property as surplus and direct them to dispose of the items. So there's a list here. Several of these items were ones that we obtained from the closure of another office. It was an accreditation office for WASC, the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, several years ago. So they were already used items, and so they're, some of them are from like the 80s and 90s, so they're quite old.
Remind me, do we submit these to a public auction?
We don't currently have that in place, but it is at the board's discretion to direct the administration and staff how they wish them to dispose of them. So the items can be donated, can be disposed of depending on their condition. If they are deemed, potentially in good enough condition to be auctioned off or donated to some other organization, that is something that the board has the authority to direct staff to do.
Well, it says low quality. I presume that means they're damaged or not in good repair, good appearance.
Correct.
Okay. Questions of board members?
No, this seems like the sort of thing you'd make a donation of.
Right.
And sort of move
Yep.
on in life.
Most of these items have been in storage for a few years already without being used, so it's clear that they're not of use to us, but if they are in good enough condition to donate to someone else, then that might be an option.
Okay, Ms. Martell and then Dr. Harrigan.
I concur that it sounds like a good approach, and I would make the motion that we move forward with the disposal of this surplus property.
Second.
Okay, there's a second discussion. Dr. Harrigan, you had your hand raised.
I was just simply going to say, if the staff is deemed that they're unusable and disposal makes the most sense, disposal then is the most efficient for staff. Historically, I've gone down the road of staff spending a great deal of time trying to find someone who's interested in taking the donated items, only to find out that no one else is interested in them, and it is not an effective use of staff's time. So I would just advocate that if the items are damaged or broken and we don't have an immediate donator, that they simply be disposed.
I'd like to amend the main motion that these be delivered to Dr. Harrigan's garage. I understand these.
And Dr. Harrigan, who is Marie Kondoed now, 2 homes, will meet them at the door and take them to the Palm Springs disposal, where they will be appropriately separated for recycling and or reuse or disposal.
What
Okay,
did
there's
he
a motion.
say? I don't know what he said.
I don't know, Dr. Harrigan. Dr. Harrigan, I think those folding tables might be useful for a Palm Springs party in your backyard.
All my caterers bring their own tables.
All our caterers. Oh, excuse me.
Well, because we have our charter partner here with us, our authorized, make it clear that no school property goes to board members. So nonetheless, there is a motion and second on the floor to direct staff to dispose of the equipment as they best see fit. Any further discussion?
I second.
You already did.
Oh.
Yeah, you did. You did a good job on that. All right, seeing no discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, 5.1, our next meeting is Saturday, March 26th. This is a regular meeting of the board. So that'll be good. And that is at 8:30 a.m. by this platform. And so per our earlier vote, our next meeting, please put it on your calendar, June 4th, 8:30 a.m. We're going to shoot to have in person if people are well and the situation continues to improve. The graduation is in San Diego on that Thursday. And so there's graduations all around there. We'll talk about the graduation calendar at our next meeting to make sure we can have board representation. Ms. Gaskell, is there anything else that you want to share about upcoming meetings or prior to?
No, if you recall, we also I've put out a request, just respond to me via email, please, about your ability to meet on a Friday evening for about 45 minutes to an hour with our WASC Visitation Committee, Sunday, April 3rd. And if you all chime in on a time that might work better for you, that would help as well. It doesn't have to be a full board, otherwise we'd have to probably post it, but I just need several board members because we are going through our WASC accreditation. I will remind you again in March, but if I can tell her a time, that would be helpful.
And Jim, is there any sort of Brown Act issue with this?
No.
Okay.
If it was a majority of us, we would notice.
Yeah, we just can't have a quorum or we'll have to notice it as a meeting, that's all.
Okay.
Well, Ms. Gaskell, do they want just a few of us to be interviewed? Is that the point you made us? Okay.
Yes,
So
yes.
great. I think 3 of us is sufficient.
Yeah, we have all 4 schools going through accreditation that Sunday.
Do you know who the 3 are?
It'll be about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour.
Have you already picked the 3 board members?
No,
No,
she's
I
asking
wanted to see who
volunteers.
could attend. I mean,
I'm sorry, what?
I was just looking for volunteers.
Okay, well, if you need one, I can do it in the late afternoon.
Late afternoon is 4-ish to you?
Sure.
Okay.
That's after his nap. Should work.
I block the whole day. I think.
Well, I love having a doctor. Dr. Harrigan, are you volunteering?
No, unfortunately, I already shared with Jana that I'm unable to do it that particular evening. I have theater tickets.
Awesome. What are you seeing?
I think, well, it's one of the concerts at the McCollum Theater. We're
Nice.
seeing a series of them. Tomorrow, Friday night, we're going to see Judy Collins for Joel's birthday.
Good for you guys.
Yeah.
That's great.
There you go.
Perfect. Okay, so you have Tom. I think I can work it out, but let's get back to Jana if you're interested, and we'll see who we have available. Anything else, Ms. Gaskell, while you have us that isn't an action, but just an announcement? No? Any other board members have any general comments for the good of the order?
Oh, how's enrollment?
We just stopped enrolling for this year. I will send you out, well, I was going to put it in my executive director report, but I can send it to you in advance. But we have ceased enrolling for the current school year, and we're starting our re-enrollment campaign for next year.
Dr. Harrigan, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jana, it just hit me, having participated in WASC processes before. I have had the occasion where sometimes the committee might want to meet with a board member or someone during the process for any clarifying questions or review. So I could certainly make myself available for that if you should need it.
Great, thank you, Dr. Harrigan. I appreciate that. I will let her know, our chairperson.
Okay, very good. Then I'll adjourn the meeting. You all have a great week. Stay well, and we'll see each other in a couple of weeks.